Here is my computer. Nothing much has changed since we've last seen this. It's still based on an Intel Core i7-2600 processor from 2011. However, the hardware specifications are not the topic of today's video. Instead, I'd like to take a look at the case. This is a Corsair Model 200R computer case, and I have done some modifications to this, so let's take a closer look. You'll probably notice straight away that I have covered the air vents on the side as well as on the top with tape, so that has all been sealed. With the side panel removed, let's take a look at my other modifications. I first started to modify this case not long after I got it a couple of years ago in an attempt to keep the dust out. Because with the side panel being all open, the top being all open, and also the back being all open, there is another vent right there, which has also been covered up with tape. A lot of dust was getting into the system, which is of course undesirable. So the aim was to create a very directional airflow through the system using existing air filters. So there is an air inlet on either side of the front panel, and that actually does have an air filter, dust filter. There is a ventilator fan right there that's pulling air into the system. So the first thing that I did was to improve on that. As you can see, there are a lot of cutouts in the metal that's facing towards the front. So I covered those all up with cardboard and tape right there, and also up there. Everything has been covered up with cardboard. So now the fan, instead of pulling air in from up there and down here, it's really just pulling air in from the front, from outside. So that's now working a lot more effectively. So the air goes into the system, and now I'm not entirely sure what the idea behind the heatsink of this graphics card is. It seems to pull in air from the bottom and then it just kind of spreads it out towards the sides. But that's getting fresh air, and the processor heatsink is getting fresh air. And then there is a fan in the back, and that's blowing the air out again. So air is coming in here, goes through the system, and exhausts right there. The power supply is separate. It has its air intake on the bottom of the case, and there is a dust filter, as you can see. And then it exhausts to the back. Now, the problem with that was that I think there really wasn't enough of an airflow. So that's the modifications that I did today to try and help that a little bit, because as soon as I put some sort of a load onto the graphics card or the processor, you could clearly hear the fans spinning up quite considerably. So I'm thinking that probably the air intake on the front, especially with the filter, might be a little bit too restricted, so there might not be enough of an airflow. So there is another one of these vents in the bottom, which I've now decided to open up again. And as you can see, originally there used to be the same sort of stamped metal grill down there, but I cut that out and put in one of these fan grills, which of course restrict the air coming through a lot less. Admittedly, that might actually be a bit of a problem when it comes to the dust, because of course now dust can come in from the bottom into the case again. But I am hoping that gravity is going to help me. Certainly there would be a lot more dust coming in if I opened up the top again. So there is that, so there should now be more air flowing through here. I also cut out the stamped metal grill on the back fan and added this metal grill to that as well. So also that should now be working a lot more effectively, this fan right here. And then as for the power supply, again, there was a stamped metal grill, which was kind of stupid because it was redundant. There is the grill on the power supply, of course. So again, I cut that out, and now there is this grill, which of course is good enough. But another thing that I noticed when I pulled the case out of its space under my desk was that the dust, instead of accumulating in the filter right here on the power supply, it had actually accumulated around the edges of the case. And as we take a look at this, originally there weren't these feet. So there was this bump in the metal case and a little piece of rubber to keep that from scratching the floor. And that was it. So that was maybe about a centimeter between the bottom of the case and the floor. And then right here, of course, this air filter does stick out quite a bit of a distance. So between the air filter and the floor, there was maybe about 5 millimeters, which clearly wasn't enough because the dust was actually getting caught around here. So what I did is I removed the rubber feet, drilled some holes, and screwed on these feet that I took off of a hi-fi component. Right there, you can see the screw. All quite simple. So I lifted the case up from the floor quite a bit. So now the power supply should be getting much more of an airflow as well. So on both the power supply and the inside of the case, the airflow has been improved. I haven't actually tried this yet, but looking at what I did, I'm quite confident that it will make a difference. So there you have it. Some food for thought in case you happen to own one of these Corsair 200R computer cases. Thank you for watching.